broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Welcome to Broadscast.
Hi.
You guys, I am so excited today for our listeners because I think that your minds are going to explode with openness and
Possibility.
We've got Kyle Cease. He is the author of I Hope I Screw This Up. He is a stand-up comedian and he's a guru in the transformation space, but he combines comedy and transformation together, and it's really, really great stuff.
Yeah, Jackie always likes to pull me along her self-evolving realization path. But I'm super excited. The cover of his book is awesome, and I know he's gonna change our lives today.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's first talk about our sponsor. So, moms, we love moms. And so, moms, hey, Mother's Day is coming up. We have created an entire page of specials because here's the thing. When we talk about Mother's Day, we talk about all the things mom wants, and it's probably not a coupon for a free hug, let's be honest. But sometimes we just want to get what we want for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that wherever it's from, whatever you're looking for, we've got some selections, some opportunities for you to save money and get what you want this Mother's Day. Broadscast.com/special offers is all about you, Mom. We curated a little bit of mom-centric. All right, let's be honest. You don't have to be a mom. We're just pitching it to you because it's Mother's Day. But in reality, this is really great stuff for women. So I'm just being honest because everybody out there is like, just like Breast Cancer Awareness Month where they just slap on the pink.
Yeah.
This month, they're just selling the same
We got a
stuff.
lot of things to hawk on our websites, basically.
So you can save money, but you can also support the show by doing so. And so that's very exciting.
So that's a nice Mother's Day gift for us. So
exactly.
Thank you in advance.
Thanks. So broadcast.com/special offers. So we are going to come right back with our first guest, our only guest of the day, Kyle Cease. So stay with us.
Subscribe to Broadscast on iTunes.
Welcome back. Hey, why don't you do what our VO guy, Andrew Bowen, just told you and subscribe to us on iTunes?
I already am, but I don't know that everybody else is. So hop to
you
it,
just
people.
head on over to iTunes, search for Broadscast, which, sometimes they'll try to ask you, like, did you mean broadcast? No, I didn't. I meant broadcast. And then you'll see our little faces and you can hit subscribe. It's super duper easy. So head on over there to do that. So, let's just get to it.
Let's do it.
So he is a stand-up comedian for like 20 years. He has two Comedy Central specials, #1 Comedy Central specials to his credit.
Yeah, he's been on Chelsea Lately, The Late Show with Craig Ferguson, The Martin Short Show. Remember The Martin Short Show?
I do.
Comics Unleashed, VH1. He was on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys follow him on Facebook, but Kyle Cease, Cease, he is just... the way he puts his videos out there, and he has these live shows, and he's got the new book, as we mentioned earlier. I hope I screw this up, but he's on fire, and if you don't know who he is now, you will.
And he's bringing us something for our listeners. So our listeners are going to have a chance to win something. So you have to listen to the show to know how to do that.
That's a good idea, Kim.
I'm full of them.
All right. So Kyle Cease, welcome to the show.
How are you guys? It's so good to be with you.
Thank you.
It is so good. You are just like on fire, young man.
It's pretty crazy. It's, right now our book is flying. It's flying. And there's a lot going on in so many different areas. And it's very exciting. And I'm realizing one thing that's showing up for me is I have to remember that this isn't me, that it's the book that's doing great or it's the success. Because when I think it's me, I can get so entangled in it. And it's just fun to just watch all this happen and just kind of step back more and more and more and just be with it. Because it's a crazy experience, but still nothing compares to just meditating or hiking too.
Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it, because without you, there is no book. So how do you separate the two? I mean, I hope I screw this up. We have to get into, why you titled it that. But let's first touch upon why and how you separate the two.
Well, I know that I'm the source that the book came from, right? Like, I enjoyed writing the book and I loved it. And then the book is doing insanely well. Like, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of copies, and it's not even finished the first week yet. And they're saying numbers are crazy. And at times what'll happen is I'll get caught up checking where we are on Amazon, because we're in the top 100 on Amazon of all books in the world, very. And right now, as we do this interview, we're 63 right now. It's weird because we're in this world with Harry Potter books and Stephen King and crazy stuff. And it's very exciting. And in that excitement, it can be a little addictive. I mean, my team and I and my manager have all gone through different phases of this. This feels like crack. We just keep checking it and seeing that, books are flying and it's amazing. But when I do that and I get really excited about it, it's good to be excited about it, but still stay close to my heart, because when you get really, really, really excited about it, you also set yourself up for a lot of pain, because, Wayne Dyer said, if you think that thing is who you are, then if that goes away, then you go away too. And it's very interesting to get caught up in a very big high. But, if you get one in that place, you're making a vulnerable setting, because if you get one person that sends you hate, or if you slip down the list a little bit or whatever, then all of a sudden you start to match that excitement with the polar opposite, which is loneliness, or no one likes me, these crazy illusions in your body. And what I really realized is that the most amazing part of what the book was writing it and creating it and working with my team. My friend Dan helped me structure it, and it was just that. And our team even talked about last night, when we make a video and it gets millions and millions of views, there's two us's. There's the ones that really love creating it, and that's our natural being with nature state. And then there's this total societal addictive state when you see it get 10 million views and lead to other, sales of our events and people writing us all these love letters and everything. And you have to remember that the most exciting part is really being the creator of it and enjoying that, and still enjoy the other stuff, but don't think of that as who you are.
Kyle, I've written on a couple of books, and I can completely understand and appreciate what you're saying. I think that when you're the author, when you're the creator of it, it does come with a certain burden, though. So when you turn it over to the publisher and everyone's excited, and then it goes live and people are buying it or not buying it, there is that feeling of I'm letting everybody down, or I'm it's and then you're I did the same thing. I would read Amazon, I would read the reviews, and I would get angry at the ones that were this is stupid, and it is addicting. I mean, I'm a comment reader, so I would go into the late at night and I would read all the comments and the reviews, but there is something about it that you can get sucked in. But I still am struck with you saying that you want to keep yourself separated from me, because it was such a feat to complete something that was so important to me. I was like, wow, I can finally add author to my list, and it was really very empowering for me. So do you ever have moments where you pinch yourself and think, I can't believe that this is my life now?
Yes. And what if I really ask myself that in the highest level, I'll say, I'm so thankful that I have this awareness, and that I get to experience choosing that awareness. I believe we all have a very high level awareness. And I think the reason that we stress is because we don't live in it. And if I get excited that who I am as the comic or the author, that's awesome. And it's fun to add that on. But those are so different, just clothes that I'm wearing versus what I actually am. And I just think we get so caught up in that we are what country we're from or our skin color, and we're so much even deeper than that. And we're all connected at that place. And the amount of success that happens externally, I really believe will match the level of connection you have to yourself. In other words, even in like a relationship, if you don't love yourself in your pain, if you don't love yourself through your meditating or whatever, if you are kind of half-assed with that and then you get in a relationship and someone actually really loves you, that's going to be horrifying to you because it's bigger than you've let yourself experience. It's kind of like why people sometimes, you could be someone who thinks who you are is someone who makes $20,000 a year. If someone hands you $1 million, that's death to who you are. So you might sabotage it and go back to your other story. So those things are all exciting. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'll tell you, this week is very exciting and very emotional.
You come from a place of such love and such self-awareness and connection. Was it always that way? I mean, were you raised that way, or was there a certain time in your life that sort of created that in you?
I would say a couple things. I would definitely say that one part of it was I was born into a family that was very innovative, just as people. Like my uncle was a prop man for the comedian Gallagher. I don't know if you remember that.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
He was the watermelon boy?
Yeah, well, remember how he also had this kind of Carrot Top ton of props and stuff like that?
Yes.
My uncle was inventing and making those things. So my uncle's house was just crazy and fun and weird and gigantic toys and bizarre things that you would never think would go together. And then my grandma was a famous puppeteer. She was on the Carol Burnett show.
Wow.
And tons of other stuff. And then I have my mom's side, I have an uncle that is a Grammy-nominated jazz musician. And then I have and my dad was very innovative with companies. He would just create a company, and if it would fail, he'd just do the next one. And I just see him constantly be starting things like that and making new ones. And so I think one thing that did was put me into a world, which is funny because we could all still have this. It just, in other words, this was still conditioned into me. Had nothing to do with how I was born, who I was in my DNA, but I was put into kind of a world where it's totally normal to be innovative and creative and playful. And so I was never, pushed down or told, no, you got to be a lawyer or something like that. I was honored in that. And so I was a stand-up comic starting at 12 years old. Actually, I started in second grade. My teacher told me if I'd be quiet, she'd give me 5 minutes at the end of the week to do whatever I wanted. So I started doing Gallagher's material for the second graders.
That is the best thing ever.
I know. I was talking about sex and taxes with a Southern accent, and I didn't even know what I was talking about. And then, and so then I started working clubs as a kid and just becoming a comic. And but there was a time where I had to where I went through a couple phases, and one of them was first me going through kind of a motivational phase where I started kind of getting in my head and anxiety-ish, and then I actually got into Tony Robbins and started actually achieving a lot more, #1 Comedy Central specials and things like that. But what happened was, what my real shift was from after that, which was I started really getting motivated and wanting to show comedians they could do all this stuff. And I created a thing where I partnered with the comedian Louie and we created a thing called Stand-Up Boot Camp, where we were teaching aspiring comics this thing. And I forgot that comics are also very cynical and very vocal about it, and very articulate and good at making a point and making it funny, which is even more painful sometimes. And the ones that didn't go to the event, every once in a while I'd hear a peer of mine say, I must be crazy, or I must be a cult leader, or I must, we live in a world where if you do anything positive, people think you're in a cult. You could just say it's nice outside, and everyone goes, what are you, a Scientologist? You're like, oh, I just said it's pretty.
That's so true.
Yeah, and meanwhile, everyone else can say every horrible thing they're feeling all day and what they're angry about on Facebook, and then drink Pepsi, and that's not a cult.
Right.
It's just an interesting perspective, I guess. But So for me, what happened was at one point that just got overwhelming, where I was getting so much crap from comics and different people, and I had to go through a thing where I was kind of even scared to go into comedy clubs because I just think they all thought I was like this guy that was now, trying to be a cult leader. And then I at one point sat in a hotel with this pain for 6 days. And I just didn't go get drunk. I didn't go do anything addictive. I just felt this pain, and it felt like a tornado for days. And then finally on day 4, my mind had been spending for 4 days trying to figure out how to achieve my way out of it, trying to think, okay, I'll have another #1 special, or I'll have a blah, blah, blah. And then at one point I was sitting on my bed, and I noticed that my mind was just doing all these solutions, and I was sitting there totally safe. Like for 4 days, my mind had been saving my life while I was totally safe sitting on a bed. And it was a fascinating thing to suddenly discover that my mind's doing the work, not me. And that was the second I realized I'm not my thoughts. And my entire past, my entire history, all my accomplishments, all my failures, all plummeted, and I was just a dude sitting in a room. And I felt a freedom that I had never felt before. And I started discovering all the stuff about what I really was. And after that, I flew home, and I tried to get my DVD player to play a movie, and it wouldn't play it. I tried to get it to play 6 different movies. None of them played. And then finally the movie Adaptation played. And there's a scene in that movie where Nicolas Cage says to his brother, he says, in high school, there's this girl you really loved, and she was saying bad things about you, and you didn't care. Why is that? And the brother said, because whatever she says about me, she can't take away from me how much I love her. And then he said, you are what you love, not what loves you. And I realized in that moment what that meant. Like I was in an emotional state. Like every time we are trying to do anything the right way, or you're going to go to a job interview and you're worried you'll screw it up, or anytime you're nervous, you're falsely being what has been conditioned into us as who you are is what people think about you. But if you go back to your childhood state, all you did was play, create, you knew what you wanted to be, you didn't question it,
right.
And you were what you loved. And if you had it as a child, you also have it right now. And I started realizing all of my nerves were, or even my motivation was me trying to do something the right way so I could get love, because I'm under the illusion that I'm not love as is. And I had this massive revelation and shift, and all of a sudden a lot of my nerves and trying to get it right, and even motivation died off. And because motivation to me is when something happens, I'll be happy. When I finally get that money or that job, I'll be happy. And I realized that it's not when something happens, I'll be happy. My huge shift was when I'm happy, things will happen. And by happy, I mean okay with myself, with every emotion, okay with my sadness, okay with my fear or my playfulness or whatever. And so life suddenly was not about making it happen, but letting go of everything in my life that's heavy, that doesn't align with me, because the only reason I'm keeping that is I don't trust that I'm safe. So that's when I started this journey of letting go of the jobs that I didn't feel aligned with, the people in my life that I didn't feel aligned with, the food I didn't feel aligned with, everything, and started accessing a lot of powers because I didn't realize that was all on the other side of letting go of those things, because those were also me letting go of my old story to make room for the birth of what I really was.
I think there are a lot of people who want to follow in those footsteps and let go of those things that don't serve who they are to the core, but there's a lot of fear in doing so. And I mean, a lot of it is like they have to make a paycheck, or they have to deal with family members, or whatever it is. What kind of advice would you give them in aligning themselves with their lives?
Well, what we can't see, whenever we're letting go of something, remember, a friend of mine, Diego, said this to me once, and it's so huge. When you're letting go of something, you can always measure what you will lose, but you can never see what you'll gain. And when you have something heavy, you don't understand. First of all, the reason you think you can't do it is the reason you have to. For instance, I don't make enough money is one of the best reasons to go give your gift for real. Even if you're in a job that pays $1,000 an hour, if you don't like the job, you're living against your soul, and that's costing you a lot of money. Like, that's actually costing you money, because all day we spend ignoring our connection to our body. And whenever we're in something we don't like, we have to make sense out of it. And whenever you're justifying anything you're doing, you're totally out of alignment, because the things in our lives that we really love, we don't justify it. I don't justify why I'm with my team or my fiance or why I choose this career. But if you're saying, well, this job's okay, but it gets good medical, that means you're justifying it. And you're actually having to go to your mind to make sense of why you're ignoring your body. And what you can't see is that when you're aligned with your heart and your body, infinite creative ideas show up that are the universe or your soul or life or whatever you want to call it trying to give help to the world. And when we're holding on to a job we don't like, we are costing ourselves not only that, but almost all the money that we make has to go to our addictions anyway. Then we drink things we don't want to drink, and we hurt our bodies, because an addiction gets you into the moment. But when you're connected to your soul and your body, you start to realize that you are the moment. And then an addiction feels like a contraction. So just by living in your heart, you immediately save a ton of money on all of your addictions and blood pressure medication and therapy, and your health starts to connect again. All these things all connect when you're doing the thing that you know is your highest truth. So every reason you think you can't is the reason you have to. Like, I'd love to go give my gift and go write my book right now, but I have a kid. All the more reason to do it, to show your kid that they can do anything they want to. Or I don't have enough time. Good. One reason that almost stopped me, well, I'd like to combine comedy and transformation, but no one's ever done that. And then my soul went, no one's ever done that. Like, I'd have my own field. So if someone was listening to this, though, I'm all that I'm hearing in my head is how do I do all of this? So if someone is sitting there and they're feeling inspired by what you're saying, it doesn't click. So what? Sure.
How? How does someone make those?
The first thing is love the voice that's asking how. Because how is actually, this is going to sound crazy, and I know every achievement seminar person is going to kill me for this, but how is actually still a fear-based question. How do I fix the circumstance? How is, I don't trust that I'm taken care of. I got to do it. This egoic part of me has got to do it the right way. And if you think that there's a right or wrong way, how do you even measure that? Did I get something? So the first thing what I mean by that is, a lot of times when we're trying to figure out what to step into, we're trying to see the entire picture of the whole thing, right? Before we leave, we're trying to see the entire thing. I want to see the guarantee of the money, or I want to see how that everything will be safe first, which basically means you won't be moving from your heart. You'll be moving from your head, and you'll keep yourself in your limitation story, because only the mind of your past story is trying to figure out how to do this. In other words, the person asking how is not the person in this moment. It's the old story of you that's worried that you'll do it wrong. And if you do it wrong, you won't get love or you won't be safe. So the first thing to do is ask yourself what in your life you know in your body you want to do. Now, that's the next step. If you can see the entire picture, it's too small, because you can only see things from your limited mindset. But if you actually ask your body what's the next step it wants, right? What's the next thing it wants? So I believe very much we have two voices. There's this first voice that's our entire body. And it says something like a one-sentence thing like, what if we leave this company? Or what if we ask that person out? Or what if we went and wrote a book right now? Or what if we just moved to Italy? I know that sounds crazy, but there's that first voice that when you hear it, there's something that we all have that's in our body. And when you feel it for a second, you actually feel your body open up, or you feel your body get excited about it. Like, what if we just left this company? Right? Something like that. Right. Now, right when you feel that in your body, your mind will totally kick in and give you the counter to that, which is society's thinking. And your mind will come up with why you shouldn't. And it'll usually be a really stupid reason. So the first voice will be like,
and that second voice is extremely strong, and she's got a Boston accent, and she sounds like this. You know?
Is that what your mom sounds like?
No,
That's
she just
Jackie.
she's just constantly telling me how stupid it is, you know?
Yeah. But the reason that she's louder than the heart is because you've catered to what she said more than what the heart said in the past. In other words, when we start to listen to the heart and step into the leap, the heart starts to get louder than the mind. And you start to get evidence to prove to yourself that the heart's right, so your nervous system stops trying to protect you and actually let you step into it. So the first voice will be like in your body. You feel it in your whole body. It says, what if we leave this company? And it feels good in your body. And that feeling is a preview. It's saying you're going to always feel like this when you leave this. You're going to be expanded. It's going to be amazing. And then but you can't see what it looks like, only because you've never done it before. And then your mind kicks in with something really stupid, like why it won't work. And it comes up with something like, well, if we leave the company, we can't go to the Cheesecake Factory party next Thursday. And the first voice is like, dude, if you'd learn to listen to me, you'll own all the Cheesecake Factories in a month. And if you want, you could make them all vegan or something. And the second voice is like, yeah, but they'll have those Thai lettuce wraps and we want that. Anyone who's ever stayed in a relationship way too long because they know eventually you're going to go camping know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I mean, and thankfully I'm not in this situation right now, but like, oh, but Valentine's Day is coming up. Oh, but it's his birthday. I can't dump him before his birthday. Or, oh, it's my birthday. Or, oh, it's our summer, trip that we plan. Like, there's always a reason to not do what you really need to do.
I guess what I'm saying, I mean, like there's a part of me that like I'm excited. This is Kim, by the way, that I'm excited listening to, and then I think I have responsibilities, and so I think that there's that my brain is then putting in the reality. Is this realistic for me? It's not that. Right. It's not that I want to quash the excitement, but I do have responsibilities. I have a child. Sure. I have how do you make the leap without shirking those things that actually how you make it sound so easy, and I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know.
Yes, it's easier done than said.
Right.
So here's
I like that. Yeah.
Here's how. Yeah. It's much easier done than said. When you actually do the thing, you'll start to get a lot of the answers to what you said. In fact, you'll realize you don't even have a question. I understand that it sounds this way, but think about this. There are people all day that say universe and God are taking care of me. And then they ignore the thing in their body that they want to do, which really means I don't trust it's taking care of me. Anyone who's ever been in a relationship too long and they felt that feeling and they didn't do it, what happens if you don't listen to it? The universe or life kicks your butt over and over and over again until you do the thing that you knew months before that you were supposed to do. If you are thinking, I have responsibilities, I understand. That's, to me, a reason to really live in it. Now, let me tell you an example for me that maybe will actually give you some things to answer those questions in a very, to make it make sense for the mind, too.
Okay.
So we were doing an event. I'll give you two stories of big leaps that I did and measurable results on how they suddenly changed the entire dynamic of our life and career. So at one point after the comics had said that stuff and I had that shift, I realized that I don't think I believe in motivation. I believe we're like helium balloons that are always trying to go up, but the helium balloon is caught on stuff like, controlling things that we can't control, like what a politician is doing or, what someone thinks about you or your past. So the balloon string's caught on that. And when we start letting go of the things that we can't control, remember when your mind is looking at this leap, it's looking at your entire past, but it's not factoring in that we spend 95% of our day probably mad about something that we can't control, like something from our past or what Donald Trump said or what a football team did or just someone's opinion of us. So our mind is wasting its time controlling things that we can't control, and nobody's focusing on what they can control. Like, do I accept what they think about me? Or what do I want to do? Or what do I step into? So when I did that, when I realized the shift, the first thing I did was I said, I'm going to go 90 days eating all raw vegan food. And not that I'm preaching veganism here, but I was just like, I wonder what would happen if I let go of that. what was really weird was I started discovering how much of the food that I ate was not because my body was hungry, but because I felt an emotional connection at restaurants. And I felt this thing. So it wasn't even my body that was eating, it was my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
When I went raw vegan, all of a sudden I could identify that I was run emotionally. And I thought that what would happen would be I'd just get really healthy, and I did. But what I really started realizing was I could change my habits, because I was suddenly getting addicted to raw vegan food and really healthy stuff after about a month. So I started going, well, what else feels heavy in my life? And let go of that. So then for a while I said, okay, no Facebook. Now your mind would think in a smaller way, but like what you're saying, well, I need Facebook because I need to advertise myself, right? Like I need to, answer fan letters. I need to whatever. And I said, okay, no Facebook. Then I said for a while, no dating. Oh my goodness. I got
no
idea.
that one handled. Like I'm good on that
Kim
one.
has mastered that.
I've mastered that. Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah. I had no idea how much time I spent planning a date, like cleaning way too unnecessarily, just like finding the right restaurant all day, like just so I can, meet someone and whatever. So it's so funny to suddenly have all this free time. All of a sudden I'm disconnected from the news and media and all the stuff. And in that space, all this old me started leaving, this old story of me and everything. And then I realized at the height of my Comedy Central career, I'm not a comic anymore. There's something in me that's bigger. I don't know what it is, but there's something in me that's bigger than this. And I felt I need to do the next step, which is just let go of doing comedy, which is crazy. So my friend we were doing a documentary, and my friend was filming me, and I looked into a camera and I said, I'm officially done doing comedy clubs on the road. This was a huge deal because this had been my dream career, but in my body it suddenly had run its course. So I said, I'm done doing comedy clubs on the road. Now, I'm not claiming anything synchronistic here or magic, but I will say right after I said that, 3 auditions showed up into my phone for auditions for times around when I would have been on the road. And it almost felt like I made room for it, but I don't know what happened with that. But I'm not claiming the magic thing. I want to give you the practical side of it too. A week later, I would have been on the road performing. I would have been doing comedy clubs. But now that I let go of that, I showed myself and moved into this alignment that who I am is more than just a comic, that I'm even bigger than that. I'm this alignment. I was so much more in my heart that my mind wasn't disqualifying ideas all of a sudden. So I just thought to myself, what if I combine comedy and transformation? And that's what I was saying before. Like my mind was like, well, no one's ever done that. But my heart was louder and went, right, no one's ever done it. Let's do it. So it's like, okay, let's get started. So I didn't know which way to start, but I was just thinking all the corporations could have me come and perform and make their team laugh and get bigger sales. I could do the lecture circuit at every college and make it funny and not be like just a guy talking about drinking and driving or something. Like I could do something unique that they would love. Mm-hmm. And so that week, I had a friend of mine pull a camera out, and we made 500 videos for the people that book the colleges, and I made the 500 videos for people by name. So I literally looked into a camera, and I said, hi, this is for, like, Diane Johnson at North Idaho University. This is Kyle Cease. Well, they knew me from Comedy Central, so they couldn't believe that I was contacting them, right? And my friends were saying to me, this is crazy. You should be, you should be doing a club. You're not even making any money this week. Well, the following week, about 100 of those colleges said yes to me performing there at a rate that was 4 times for one night what an entire week of me doing a comedy club was.
Wow.
And it was like 10,000 a pop almost showed up at 100 gigs, right? And all of a sudden, just from leaping, suddenly a week later, there's almost $1 million, right? So it was so funny because my mind had, how will I make money? Well, once I let go, I created the alignment for that. Then I had also one of the biggest agencies in the world. And they were people that my mind could justify keeping because they get me auditions for movies and they also get me other gigs. Well, every time a gig came in, they wanted 10% of it, but they had nothing to do with me getting these gigs. I was on my own getting these lecture gigs. And I felt every time a check came in that I owe them $1,000, but I didn't feel it felt right. It felt heavy to me. Once it felt heavy, it felt out of alignment. And I asked my body what it wanted to do, and it said, let go of them. So I let go of them. They thought I was crazy. They were like, no one's dropped it. Like, they handle household name people. And then a few weeks later, maybe a week later, actually, I'm invited to perform at an event that Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle created together called GATE. Stands for Global Alliance of Transformational Entertainers. I'm asked to speak on stage with Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle and all these household name legends in both comedy and transformation. I go on stage. There's 2,000 projectors and all kinds of people in the audience. And Marianne Williamson's in the lineup, and Michael Beckwith and Louie Anderson, and all these different types of people. And I go on stage, and I had let go of this agency. So I felt so in alignment with myself because I didn't even declare to myself that I needed this agency to feel in alignment. And I went on stage, and I felt so in my body, and I had no idea what it was going to say. And I look in the audience, and four rows in, Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle are sitting there. And I said, I see them. And I said, this is so weird because I'm told all the time I'm what would happen if Jim Carrey and Eckhart Tolle had a baby. And I said, I don't know if you guys are picturing that. Eckhart, I know you're not because it's a thought and I know you don't have those. And then I said, some of you guys might think that joke was offensive, but it's in the past, so Eckhart doesn't even know about it. And the place went crazy. And then I walk off stage, everyone ran up to me, and I was offered a bunch of movies.
Wow.
Now, here's the funny thing. Without even auditions, here's the funniest part, though. The only reason I was keeping that huge agency was because they were getting me auditions for movies. But every time I went into an audition, I was scared that I would lose the agency. So I wasn't quite me. I would be in my head and trying to do it the right way. Now I drop the agency, the people I think that I need to get the thing I want, and I drop them, and then it came to me. Like a bunch of parts came to me because I was a different human being, not someone carrying the weight of this agency and trying to keep all these things going. And so for me, what I discovered was I got more and more proof that when you let go of something, your heaviness will go away that you feel when you think I have to do that thing. Mm-hmm. We're all unaware that we're disconnected from an infinite creative thing once we release our old past story that's just trying to do things to get love from our parents who were like in the Great Depression and telling us how to live from that place. And so we muffled our voices and we did what we need to make them happy, and we think I got to achieve to survive. And we don't actually listen to a guidance system that actually gives us infinite, creative, confident ideas, lets go of things that don't align, and really moves you into a place of effortlessness. And then you start saving money on hospital bills and because you're healthier, because you're in your body. And then when you get in a relationship, it'll be with someone who also loves themselves on that level. So you guys can both expand each other's connection versus being two people that are addicted to each other because you don't feel like you're complete and using each other as an excuse to not actually meet yourself.
Right. So what do you say to those people who, I see it every day, people who want to jump or leap, and when they do, it's like they do that, when toddlers try to jump for the first time and they just lift their heels up and their toes still stay on the ground, so they're like moving their body in this direction. They're like, but I jumped and nothing happened. And it's like, you didn't actually. So right. I think there's so much fear there. So how does one go from feeling that fear and keeping the toes on the ground to actually leaping? And how long before they start to see that they're in alignment and it's working? I think that's another thing, is like this need for instant gratification these days. It's like if you don't see it in that first week and it's actually kind of scary, then they're like, see, I jumped and nothing happened.
Yeah, that's not how they'll feel after they jump, because you'll feel it in your body even if nothing happens. Like the mind looks looking for results externally. The body's looking for the results internally. And when you do that, the outside will match the inside. So here's what I'd say to those people. It's totally cool if you don't jump. In other words, like, I'm not here to push anyone off any bridge. It's only when they feel ready for it. And a caterpillar and a baby serve as much of a purpose as a butterfly and an adult. You don't get to a baby at 3 months old and be like, why aren't you working at Denny's yet? And so every person is perfect where they are. And the first thing we got to do is get okay with where we are. Get okay with our past, get okay with everything. So one thing we do at my events is we have people say whatever their fear is and then follow it with, and I love that. So people, don't realize that one of the biggest reasons we have fear is our resistance to our thoughts. So if you're thinking, yeah, but no one's going to like me, the given under that is that everyone's supposed to like you. But if you say, no one's going to like me, and I love that, or I'm really nervous and I love that, immediately you start to become the space of love that's looking at the nervousness versus the nerves itself. And when you do that, you'll start to realize you're bigger than that. So only jump when it calls to you. Don't jump because I'm pulling you off a cliff, because then that's that. So it's only when it feels ready for you and it feels exciting for you.
But if you have a fear if you have a fear that's in the way of that, how do you If I'm saying if you're saying to me don't jump until it feels right, but I have a fear that is in the way, how do I push it out of the way to jump so it feels right? Well,
there's two options really. There's really three options. One, we cater to the fear, and then we miss out on the opportunity. With every leap, you have two choices. You have the opportunity or the fear. If you cater to the opportunity, the fear will go away. Think about if people are going to go skydiving, when you're going to go skydiving, you're standing on a plane. Everyone says the scariest moment is, I know the scariest moment will be when I'm looking over the side of the plane.
Yes.
And that moment, you're safe though. You're still on the plane. Right? They always say, once I leap, I'm going to be fine. Once I'm hurtling through the air at 10,000 miles an hour, I'm going to be totally fine. And we don't realize that you're not scared to leap. You're scared of letting go of the old story of you. You're not scared. You're scared of you're scared of choosing to leap. Once you leap, that stuff takes care of itself. I have another example with that.
Oh, I was worried about face planting it and breaking all my bones. But
but you're not really thinking about it when you're in the air.
No, I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't thinking of anything, which is why I never pulled my string to put the. Anyway, that's a whole other
that's
show.
Why that's why we go tandem too.
I had a lot going on that day. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
But do you know what I mean about for the first time you're on your way up? You're thinking that horrifying moment that you can't sleep the night before is you thinking about when you're looking over the side of the plane.
That is the worst. Yeah. That is the worst time. But I also think that, they have you cross your arms in front of you so you don't grab anything going out. And it's like we have to learn in life how to cross our arms in front of us, because every time, we try to leap, and this is, maybe listeners, but I've also experienced it. But like every time we try to leap, we grab that, the side of the plane, and then we're just dangling from the plane, smacking our face over and over again because we didn't actually leap.
Right. That's exactly right. Most people are skydiving while still grabbing the plane. So they don't clear it. They jump, but then they grab the plane.
Right.
And think of how painful that would be. And that's why life kicks our butt when we jump but still grab the plane. Like when you start declaring to your friends you're about to leave the thing or move into the thing, but you don't do it, that's the equivalent of jumping and grabbing the plane still. And you're going to get hit by the wing if you don't let go. So, and then the other thing is, so when you cater to the opportunity, immediately you put yourself on a different channel where it's normal that you do this now. So when you're first looking at a leap, you're looking from the space of I'm not enough. So for someone who's a story that is like, I'm in this one limitation story and I can see this leap, all the things you're considering are coming from the voice of the small story, not the big story. So once you leap and you move into the big story, you suddenly aren't on the same channel anymore. It's a different thing. So it sounds crazy, and I know it even sounds new agey and airy-fairy, but it's not. It's actually like you can actually understand it. if you're in a relationship with someone who's actually bringing you down, of course, when you just let go of them, you're going to get back to connecting to you again. But if you try to find someone else while you're in the relationship with someone that brings you down, you'll only find someone who matches that type of person. But when you let go of them, it's like you're alone for a minute and you find your connection to yourself. And when you do that, you suddenly would accept a much higher level connected person who did the same inner work. Otherwise, you're two codependents hanging out together. So if you listen to the fear, though, the opportunity leaves. So if you come up with why you can't, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure life, right? Like when I was a kid, we had choose your own adventure books.
Right.
And in the book, it would say like, do they go to the castle? Go to page 48. Do they go to the house? Go to page 68. Well, every time you have an exciting thing happen in your body, it's like, do you move forward? Go to page 68. And if you pick no, then it just goes, all right, thanks for reading, and the book closes.
Thanks for playing. Yeah.
Peace out. So that's hilarious. Let's talk about the book title for a second. I hope I screw this up. Can you explain that to our listeners a bit? And like, why do you want to mess things up there, Kyle?
Yeah. Well, if you're moving towards something you're excited about, often you're scared we'll screw it up. Like if you're going to speak to an audience, what if they don't like me, right? If you're going to go on a date, what if I screw this up, right? And the given thing we hear a lot of in our mind is, I hope I don't screw this up. Well, I've discovered that for me, the second I say, I hope I screw this up, I'm suddenly not implying that I am is what that thing across from me thinks of me. I'm fully me. And then I'm free. And in that freedom, weirdly, I do what I love to do, and I'm who I want to be. And bizarrely, as a byproduct, all those things you thought you wanted and much better come to you, because the biggest thing we want in a person is someone who's connected to themselves. So if you go on a date with someone who's obsessed with you, you know how creepy that is, and you want to let go of it. But if you're connected to yourself, you're safe. You're not like a burden to them, and you are this thing. So I hope I screw this up is you moving towards what you want. And it's also about falling in love with your fears. Like, I'm scared I'm going to screw this up, and I love that. I'm scared this isn't going to go well, and I love that. Bringing love into that fear suddenly makes it feel safe. And in that safety, you access a creativity that's on the other side, and a freedom and a connection that's amazing. So our job is not to stop doing everything because we're worried we'll screw it up, because in doing that, we're implying that thing is bigger than who we are. It's like we'd spend our whole life spinning plates, and then we spend the rest of our life making sure the plates don't fall. So we get a plate spinning of this is the relationship and this is the job, and then we want to do our calling, and we're scared that the plates are going to fall over, of the old story. Let the plate fall. Go into your calling. You realize you're not the plate, you're the plate spinner. And we got to stop obsessing and making things outside of us bigger than we are. We love to make everything outside of us bigger than we are. We make fear bigger than we are. Fear is when you create a thought and then you get scared of the thought you created. That's like drawing a picture of a monster and putting it on the wall and forgetting you painted the thing. And freaking out every night. Like, what's that on the wall? It's your idea.
Right.
And then, yeah.
That's such a good point. And we're so afraid of dropping the plates, but like, what happens if the plate drops? Like, the world will continue to spin. You know what I mean? It's like, I think we do that, especially, Kim and I as moms. It's like we have jobs and we have dreams and we have children and we have, different relationships in our lives. And it's very difficult to juggle them all. And we're so afraid of screwing one of them up. But like, isn't that what being a human is? It's kind of like making mistakes.
I'll tell you something really interesting. I have a friend that actually I gave my book to before it came out. And she's a mom, and she's an amazing person, and she has been in a relationship where she's, without sounding insulting, I would say it's kind of like if you were hanging out with a caterpillar, but you're a butterfly. Remember, when a butterfly and a caterpillar hang out, they can only do things at the level of the caterpillar. So if a caterpillar and a butterfly got across the street, they're going to take a month. But the butterfly knows how to go across in 4 seconds. So the caterpillar is, I got to see it first. The butterfly is, I feel it in my body and I feel this intuition. And so she has been thinking kind of like the questions you were asking, like, what about the kids and everything? And at one point she realized in reading the book that it's her calling to go do this. And all of a sudden there's this new power in her and confidence, and she wants to let go of it. She wants to let go of that relationship. And it's creating this new thing where I hear a new voice in her and a new confidence, and it's so exciting. So I'm in so much support of that, because I think that the world really rewards caterpillar thinking, but there's a lot of butterflies out there that are dying to fly. But we live in a world that just shows you caterpillar news on CNN and caterpillar food and caterpillar conversations. Let's talk about the game or what happened on Grey's Anatomy. And no one's talking about their feeling and their body and their calling. And we're not being real with anybody. And we're meeting people and being fake people. And we're trying to say what we think they want to hear versus what we're feeling. And when we actually access that, it's crazy. So I understand that. And I think that moms, I can't imagine what it's like to be a mom. I've not ever been a mom. I so understand that. But I think just kids got to learn how empowered they are by stepping into the greatness.
So I wonder what the divorce rate is after people come to your events. Well, I'm kidding.
I don't think of it's totally. Yeah, I don't think of it as high, or as high as a bad thing.
No, I'm sort of in
well,
sort
just
of
that
joking.
One's evolved and one's not,
I
right?
went to an empowerment, self-help, whatever you want to call it, seminar when I was in my early 20s, and I left that, and my relationships changed, and I broke up with the boyfriend, and some of my friendships kind of, because I had this newness, or this, I don't even know, rediscovered, or whatever the adjective I wanted to use, and it did absolutely impact my relationships, because I found something in me that was bright. I found the butterfly, right? So, and it's painful. It was very painful, but it was invigorating, and so I'm half teasing about the divorce rate, but because I lived it. But I think that there is something, that there's an awakening that happens, and it's not often that people have that experience. So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I want to say something on that. I'm sure, absolutely, all in calling of, there's definitely people in relationships that absolutely, if you're both in your heart or you're both in your caterpillar, feel free to stay in it. It's great.
Right.
But anyone that's listened to this interview this far has that butterfly calling in them. They would have thought it was crazy if it was just caterpillar thinking, right? This is just, you're a cult. This is crazy because it's a threat to your old story. This is me talking about the calling in our body. So if you have that means there's a butterflyness in you. Now, an example I think of a lot is there are also stories like Ike and Tina Turner. And could you imagine if Tina stayed with Ike Turner? Could you imagine what we wouldn't have as who Tina Turner became after she left Ike Turner?
Right.
And I always think to myself, in every relationship I have, with friendships or anything, is it we're both a Tina Turner, we're both an Ike Turner, or is one of us an Ike and one of us a Tina? Meaning, is one of the people making the other one feel like you're so lucky you have them and they're the reason why everything's happening, and then you realize if you got away from them, they'd actually fall apart and you'd start to blossom, right?
Right.
That story to me is and then we have that with things in our life. If I got away from CNN for a while, CNN sometimes was my Ike Turner, and then I want to stop being Ike and Tina, and I want to make What's Love Got to Do with It and become a much bigger legend in the '80s. So I'm going to let go of CNN and Facebook for a while.
I love that. But what I really like though. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, we're here to access our Tina Turner if we're in an Ike and Tina type relationship, because at one point, Proud Mary's just not enough.
Right. Well, and I want to access Tina Turner's legs, please. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
But
don't you think it's interesting? She's 80 and totally connected and still all hot.
100%. So, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Before we move, because we want to talk about your live shows as we wrap up. But one of the things that I love that you're comparing a butterfly with a caterpillar. You're not comparing a butterfly with a rock. Do you know what I mean? So
No.
it's not like you can't be a butterfly if you are a caterpillar or you think like a caterpillar.
Right.
So it's just a
Right.
different level of, evolution. And so I think that it's really important that we're not, because I think sometimes when people do evolve in their lives, they see people as something other than what they are, as opposed to just the same, but at a different place in their evolution.
Right. The first thing you got to do, no matter what you are, is get okay with where you are. You don't go into a job as a janitor trying to own the company the first day, right? You completely own where you are, and you understand nothing is better than anything else. Like all 18 years on a bike are equally necessary, right? So they're all perfect, they're all great, but just love where you are. Just be okay with yourself, period. And if you're trying to get somewhere else, then love that and be okay with that. But yes, there's no part of me saying everyone should rush to be a butterfly, but also, yes, caterpillars will eventually become butterflies. Now, when you're going into a cocoon, if you think who you are as a caterpillar, then the cocoon means death. If you understand when you're going to a cocoon in a caterpillar's body that you are a butterfly, then the cocoon means birth. So
Right.
Our job is to understand when we go inward and meditate and connect and leap, are we moving towards our butterflyness, or are we scared to lose our caterpillarness?
Wow. So I thought that because I'm obsessed with your videos on Facebook, like I will go back and I will find other past ones that I haven't seen. And I know I come from a world of video, so I know that they're just snippets of what you're doing. But even just seeing some of these people like in their setup when they're at your live events, and then later on, you could just feel the difference. And even you respond in a way of like, whoa, this is happening, on stage. So, what if someone were to go to your live show, what would they expect?
Sure. Well, first of all, you got to stop having expectations.
Stop having expectations.
Because, well, what I mean is, to the listener, if you go there with expectations, here's one thing we hear constantly: God, it wasn't what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Because the most you can see from your expectations is what you've seen so far. That's the biggest you can see. Even your dream is still something you saw in your head that includes your past story, right? So what I tell people is start off by having no idea what's going to happen and fall in love with that. Our job is not to, when we don't know, try to figure out how to know everything. It's to fall in love with not knowing. And the second you fall in love with not knowing, you make space for new information to finally show up that you can listen to. And so when people show up, understand this. I will give you some stuff to expect, but I will tell you that I was a stand-up comic for 20 years, and then Evolving Out Loud is me actually. Have you ever given someone advice and then you learned from the advice that you gave?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's weird. You'll give people advice they're not even asking. They'll say like, I have a stomach ache, and you'll go, I think you should break up with her. And they'll say, I'm single, and you'll realize, oh, this is for me. Okay. So
that's perfect.
If you've given someone advice and then you learned from the advice, that means there's two of you. And the advice that you're giving often is passionately to yourself, because you can see you're right on the edge. In fact, butterflies love to scream at caterpillars to fly. And that's the way that, and caterpillars like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have wings or anything. And the butterflies are like, oh, this is for me. And so I believe that we are giving ourselves advice, and that means that there's two of us. So Evolving Out Loud is me starting, and I speak for 8 hours a day. I have no idea what I'm going to say, and I just start. And the first few minutes is me talking about all of my feelings, all my fears, everything I'm going through, and connecting with the audience in their body versus trying to come up with the right thing to say and being fake and a memory-based presentation so I can get something from them or impress them. Then we keep going, and the audience and I all together start tapping into our heart, and we go into a place that's farther down than where our head is that comes up with why we can't. So it's very fun, it's very funny, and it's totally true spontaneity. And so day one is kind of like we move to this place, so we start to kind of create a base where we're safe in our heart, and we start to let go of these old limiting stories. They just start to leave, and we all start to move into our body. And then day 2, everyone shows up and we're all now in our heart. And all of this creativity, now you can ask how. Once you're in a why, now you can ask how. So we all start creating and playing, and all these things start to happen, and we do these things where they're doing what they want and learning these new directions. And it's not motivation. It's actually you accessing what in you your soul wants to do for your own expansion. And it's all playful. It's all spontaneous. It's crazy because you get out of the way and you watch the entire event unfold itself. And every event is completely different. And by the end, everyone actually does have like a plan for what they're going to do and how they're going to implement themselves and move forward in their life. And it's crazy what happens. And, 90 days later, we check on the people and find out their stories. And people have crazy life shifts. They lost a bunch of weight, or they now do what they love, or they got out of or into a different situation that they love so much. And it's life-changing, and you're laughing the whole time because it's all playful and funny, and everything, you work with everything. I mean, we've had people heckle that became part of the show. We've had people, I'm not encouraging it, but like we go with them. And,
so if people wanted to find your live events, they're on your website, right? On KyleKeith.com, excuse me.
But we have some exciting news.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
So you are offering our listeners the chance to win 2 tickets to your Evolving Out Loud event in Los Angeles in September.
Yeah.
That's that's very, very exciting because I think, I love that you touched upon the expectation thing because I'm slapping my wrist for even saying it, because one of the things you talk about is how we set ourselves up for, like, what was that thing you say about relationships? Like, somebody didn't break your heart, but it was your expectation of them that did.
Yeah.
Or
no. And there's some people that fight that, but I know this is the truth. No one breaks your heart, but they break your expectations. There's no human being that can break your heart, but they can break the story of what you thought was supposed to happen. You could be with someone for a year, have the most amazing time, and then they just suddenly cheat on you or they leave. And you go, well, that broke my heart. No, it broke your expectations. You thought after that amazing year that you were owed more time. And you, instead of just enjoying that time and what we have, if we're in an expectation, we're not even enjoying the time that we're with the person. So if we really allow ourselves to understand, by them breaking your expectations, they also got you closer to your heart, because you were about to live your whole life in an expectation with this person and start to control them because they're your source of happiness. And if they're your source of happiness, they better never leave. They better never hurt you. And all of a sudden, we're a burden for each other. So in people, they don't break your heart. They break your expectations. And by doing that, they get you closer to your heart.
And I think that's just one. I mean, that to me was kind of like a, whoa. And then I found myself thinking about that, not just one time, but on occasion, it just pops back up into my head. And it really makes me reflect because, being married 15 years and expecting that we'll be married another 50 years or, however long we are blessed to be married. But I realized that, like, by looking at that and having these expectations, I don't necessarily live in the today, live in the now.
Right.
And so I think that that's just one of the things that people can not expect when they go to your live event. And so we will have all the details and
how fun would that be? Think of how boring it would be. Think of how boring it would be if they had expectations and then I met them. Like, you didn't grow at all. Everything that happened was what you planned would happen. So nothing new blindsided you. There was no surprises. How could there ever be a breakthrough if you have an expectation and then I meet the expectation? Wouldn't you rather not have an expectation and actually create space beyond what you're used to expecting and access that real place?
Right. So the only thing really that they should expect is that you will show up.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. But
I'll show up and I'll tell you what they can expect is that they will meet themselves and connect to themselves, and it will benefit themselves and the people around them times millions. They will be so free in their heart and connected. And that's what happens. These people leave just shocked and free and connected and in a place where it's not exciting when magic stuff happens. It's normal. You want to get to a place where it's normal when amazing things are happening, not I can't believe this is happening. Because
Right.
you'd say, I can't believe it. You're saying, I don't really believe in this.
Interesting.
Right.
So
I don't really believe this.
we will definitely we will include all of the ways that you can enter to win these 2 tickets. Even though Kim and I really want to steal them.
I will have an alias as I enter the contest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like Aki Organ, Actugel. But I think we will have all the information on broadcast.com for people to enter. And Kyle, I mean, congratulations to you, first of all, for following your heart. And I think that being the most evolved selves and the happiest selves to our core is actually what we give as a gift to the universe. Do you know what I mean? I think that you doing your work is only better. So I think as much as people may reject, and look at things as a cult, because I see that when I try to, just between Kim and me in the studio, and I'm like all self-helpy and she's rolling her eyes at me.
Because you always put me in that little box, and I resent that. Yeah.
So, but I think that that's just an example of when we put our true selves out there, when people are not comfortable, and I'm not talking about you now, Kim, but when people are not comfortable in their own skin, they can put that on you, and it's not your place to take it, And I think that you teach that to people every day.
The greatest in the world, everybody either loved them or hate them. It's like, it's not down the middle. You're not vanilla playing cruise ships. You're Oprah or Gandhi or, someone who's really speaking from truth. And truth is very scary to some people. But I do think we live in a time where truth is actually at a tipping point where it's more exciting than cynicism. Like, I mean, in the, 100 years ago, I wouldn't have made it. What we're doing wouldn't have made it. But there seems to be a market of butterflies just ready to fly now. And I always think to myself, could you imagine what would happen if 10,000 Martin Luther Kings showed up at the same time? It just feels like it's just about to happen. And we're ready. I mean, we're following the things that are happening. The audiences, they're ready for this change. And it's not like it used to be anymore.
Well, and if you're on the cusp of wanting to be ready, I strongly suggest that you reach out and get Kyle's new book. I hope I screw this up, How Falling in Love with Your Fears Can Change the World. It is available now. We will put a link on our website. But Kyle, I'm certainly, as a fellow author, congratulations on your pub date and your much success. We will watch for you on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yes,
That's
we'll be
huge.
the ones tweeting and cheering on social media where you won't be following us because you've taken a break.
I have to make a lot of limitations now. I'm trying to make myself only go online or go check my social media from 1 to 3 p.m. because I got to meet myself even more to balance all this stuff that's happening.
That's awesome.
It's just crazy. So excited.
Well, good luck to you and congratulations. And thank you for making extra time for us this morning. We know we took more than we committed to, so we appreciate that. It's really inspiring what you're doing, and I certainly appreciate your gift to the show. So thank you.
Thank you. I had a blast with you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
We will be right back.
Check out the Broads on Instagram at Broadscast.
Okay, so huge thanks to Kyle Cease for coming on the show today.
Amazing. Yeah.
Isn't he great?
Yeah. So personable and like relatable, and then maybe those are the same things, but yeah, I mean, it's just
super funny.
Yeah, super funny. Just it sounds like easy, and then it sounds hard, and then it sounds easy. So I like that he kept teaching us how to like move between those things.
Did you feel like there are certain areas in your life that you want to take his advice or want to like look at differently at all? Or do you feel like you're already going there?
I think that I already do, just not as not to the degree. I think that I have started to implement certain things in my life, but not like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just.
But you also, in my from this angle, you also, I see you constantly skydive in life, but you're not one who has to be like, hey, I'm skydiving, on the way down. You just kind of like,
I still struggle with how to, honestly, and we've talked about this with other people that we've had on the show about pivoting. I really do struggle with how do I, evolve out loud, like, he talks about, and make some of those leaps while still managing some of the responsibilities that I have that they're not fears. They're literally just stuff I have to do. And so I've never really been able to learn how to reconcile those two things. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't go to culinary school like I wanted to because I need an income, because I'm the only source of income in my life. So how could I manage leaving my job, leaving everything that I want to do, go to culinary school and be a student all day when I have a child to feed, I have responsibility.
Is that really a thing for you?
It used to be, not as much anymore, but I'm just saying that, like, it's not for a lack of want. I honestly don't know. There are things. And so that's a fear, what's a block, whatever we want to call it. I think that sometimes there are real life things that, like, it's not for a lack of want. It's just like my reality is I've got stuff.
But I think, don't we have all have that reality?
Yes, but I'm only talking about me.
Right.
Because this is my situation. So, and it's not excuses. I mean, it's not, there's just sometimes stuff is happening. I mean, like we've talked a lot, like, how do you make time for everything? Well, I'm trying to make time for everything. I'm balancing a lot. And, he talks about, like, shutting down certain parts of the day, and I do shut down certain parts of the day. And then when I turn back on, I have 100 things that I didn't get to do while I was shutting down. So I'm learning how to have better boundaries. I'm learning how to move some things around so that I'm staying true to my heart. I've let go of a lot of things. I have a lot of things that I don't leave hanging on my shoulders anymore like I used to. So
do you feel like you prioritize and you know what of those 100 things really need to be done and what can be outsourced?
Oh, totally. I'm totally. But it's not like I teased him when I said you make it sound so easy, that it is a process. For me, it's been a process. And, if I'm going to listen to what he said, I got to be okay with that. And so I always feel like I'm an evolution of myself. Like, I always think I'm a work in progress.
Well, I think that we all should feel that way. I mean, if we feel like we're done growing, like when you're not growing, you're dying.
Right.
And so I think it's really important to consistently kind of push yourself in uncomfortable areas. But I think that what you're saying is very relatable. I think there are a lot of people out there who, want greatness in whatever greatness is, to them. But there's fear because there's responsibility. And so it's kind of, I've listened to Tony Robbins a few times, and he'll talk about, how he would do his job. And then, from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., he would do this other thing. I mean, of course, he wasn't, I think as moms, we tend to, and you're a single parent,
right.
You're the sole provider and, of not only finances, but, emotional, physical care.
It's and I keep saying it to myself because fear, you and I've talked about this ad nauseum. Like, fear is usually a motivator for me. However, like I said, my reality kind of comes in, and I'm a control freak. I have certain things that I'm trying to break free of as I get older because it's exhausting. So, but that's not something for me that is easily undoable. So I have to, and I love how Kyle, really does just make it step by step, and try to open your eyes to a different way of thinking. And so for that sake, I think that it's great. And how to implement that is like the hard part. I mean, that's what he said. It's easier done than said. Yeah. Right. Is that what you said?
Yeah. But I think we definitely need to go to the event in September. I'm signing up. I'm going to drag you there with me. But I just really appreciate his insight and his lessons. And I think that anytime we can provide our listeners with something to make their lives better, then we've done our job.
Yeah. Our listener, what?
I'd love to hear what they think about this episode.
Well, and I think they should comment, but they also get to enter to win to be able to go to the seminar in September. So they can go to our webpage, broadscast.com, to find out how to do that.
And we can actually strap a GoPro on their head.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that strap-on comment.
Yeah, I know. I paused there for a minute. But yes, a GoPro. It was a GoPro on their head, and they can kind of like...
That's funny, too. A strap-on GoPro. Anyway. Sorry.
Okay, then. I think we've had enough. But
that butterfly.
Head on over to broadscast.com for that chance to win, which is very exciting. And you know what? We would be so grateful if you'd head over to iTunes and give us a little rate or review. You know, you only have to hit the stars. There's like when you head over, I mean, you're already listening. Possibly many of our listeners are on Apple products. When you're on there, there's like a little stars. You just click, you know, and let us know what you think. We definitely want feedback because we want to continue to provide the stuff that you love and hear what you don't. You know, we're open. And you can also always email us at broads@broadscast.com. That's all we have today, Kim.
It was a lot, and I'm happy. I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah, me too.
Let's go do something.
All right.
Magic happen.
You are listening to Broadscast. For more from the Broads, head to broadscast.com.